Illustrator Josh McKenna will share how hitting a creative wall led him to learn Figma Draw, which absolutely opened up a whole new dimension for his work. Let's give it up for Josh.
So, who here has never had one of these? Raise your hands if you've never had a creative block. I sure have. Hi everyone. My name is Josh McKenna. I'm an illustrator over from London, and today I want to talk about my journey with creative block, how I managed to shake it, and how learning a new program was the thing that did it. Spoiler alert, it was Figma Draw. I want to start by sharing a bit about my work and how I got here. I have to emphasize at this point that it's not all about bums. This is the last time you'll see these. As a kid, I was convinced that my future was in automotive design. I was obsessed with drawing cars. I'd spend every spare minute I had in my bedroom sketching cars. All my friends were doing cool stuff. I was not doing that. I'm still obsessed. I'll drop everything, run across the street, take a photo of a niche European hot hatch. But back then, I needed a different outlet for my creativity. I was young, I was weird, and I was figuring out who I was. While I had a place at university to study car design, I felt like it wasn't the right time to be studying something so precise and technical. And I was discovering myself as an artist, so I wanted to be messy and be free. So I traded car design for an illustration degree at university. I dived into making zines, collaging, lino cutting, screen printing, anything getting my hands dirty. That became my new obsession. And because of my design background, I had always been quite technical, and I wanted to bring my newly found screen printing techniques into my digital work. For me, it was all about replicating layers, imperfections, misaligned registration, and strict color palettes. And the subject I chose to explore all of this was heavily inspired by David Hockney. May he rest in peace. Tropical worlds, palm trees, sunshine, pastels, pastel colors. I guess it was my subconscious way of escaping the British weather. By my final year, I started to get noticed, and I had a few ones to watch type of articles written about me, and it gave me that first real bit of confidence that maybe these characters, these stories that I was creating, were worth something. So as soon as I graduated, I headed to London. That new Illustrator buzz led to commissions coming in from GQ, Wired, Monocle, MTV, and I landed my first billboard with Converse. My work was out there in the world. I was making creative friends in the industry, networking a hell of a lot. I was going to every illustration event, gallery shows, zine fairs, DIY markets. I really didn't want to miss anything. So I joined a studio. I swapped a lonely bedroom desk for a warehouse full of artists, painters, weirdos. That's the weirdo there, the bold one. Bouncing ideas off each other was just so much better than being stuck in my own critical head. And after my first few years in London, I finally got to quit my part-time job. I was working in retail at the time, which was a huge milestone for me. I was building my portfolio, working on editorials, book covers, magazine covers, hand-painting murals, and a whole array of different ad campaigns. The budgets were flowing. Do you remember those days when brands had money to spend on pretty pictures? And that's when somebody at Meta saw my work. They reached out about creating an icon for Instagram's new Pride sticker set. The brief was to illustrate what Pride meant to me. So I created this sassy, muscular bloke in red high heels. Do you remember it? Yeah. People went crazy for it. Instagram told me it was so popular that they wanted to keep it on the app for 5 years. And because it was a permanent fixture, I kept seeing it pop up in these crazy, surreal places. Like Kate Moss shared it, Jonathan Van Ness, Mel C from the Spice Girls, even Michelle Obama posted it. It went viral. Oh, sorry. And then it became a 4-meter high, glittery, sparkly float at Sydney Mardi Gras, one of the biggest pride events on the planet. And with it came this crazy level of exposure that I wasn't prepared for. Instagram flew me over to Australia. I remember seeing it, looking up, and thinking, how did I get here? My life was a blur of photo shoots, interviews, live TV broadcasts, and Instagram takeovers. Girl, I was in Vogue. I was just this small-town illustrator, and now I'm in Vogue talking about what it means to be gay. It was a lot. It was surreal. So the sticker opens up all these doors. Suddenly, I'm the go-to pride guy. I'm working on big campaigns, touching on identity, community, and queer culture. It was a very surreal time, very fun, but it had a very specific calendar. I'd be quiet for 10 months of the year, and then June would come around and these corporations would hit me up. And it was all like, Josh, can you add a rainbow here, add a rainbow there? Can you make this more queer? No, not that queer. And I think that was the first real sign of my creative burnout. In 2019, I was featured in a queer travel guide, and I remember closing the interview with a sentence that became so real. The journalist asked me what was next, and I said, I feel like it's time to try somewhere new. So I took the leap. I put everything I owned into storage, and I got on a plane to LA. As I arrived, I looked out and I saw the endless blue sky, the palm trees, and this massive wave of relief just left me. I instantly fell for the city. The history, the culture, the sunsets, the classic cars, it was all very me. I loved it. And for the first few months, I really felt like I belonged there. Then the pandemic hit. I felt like I'd left England at just the right time. I'd escaped all the lockdowns. I discovered backcountry camping in the mountains and deserts outside LA. Out there in the middle of nowhere, I felt complete freedom. That journey then turned into a 5-year adventure. I explored the American West with a vintage truck. I moved to Mexico City. I adopted a 3-legged dog. I lived on the beach in Oaxaca. I moved back to LA, met my husband, and then drove across Canada. I saw so much stuff, so many inspirational places, but at that point, I'd run out of creative steam. I'd be sat in the middle of the desert looking out at this gorgeous sunset, thinking, Josh, you should be drawing this, but I couldn't bring myself to open up a sketchbook. It took all those years for me to realize that my inspiration never came from what I was looking at. Working in isolation, I kind of realized all these things that were bugging me about how I worked, constantly switching apps just to add effects and texture. It was like little things, but they all started to add up. It wasn't sparking joy. And I think that was my real block. I didn't need new scenery. I just needed like a new workflow. So I headed back to London. By the time I got there, I'll be honest, I hadn't had a new commission in a very long time. I felt like I'd outgrown my style of working, and I didn't know if I was still relevant. It was quite a sad moment for me. And then I found Figma Draw. It came at the perfect moment. I had all this time to myself to create something with zero pressure. It was like the creative side of my brain just switched back on. I wasn't the pride guy, I wasn't the freelancer, I was just a student again, playing with a new tool. For years, my work had been very flat, very 2D, which was fine. It worked for a long, long time. But experimenting with something new changed how I was looking at my work. And because it was a new tool, I couldn't fall back on my old habits. And then suddenly, my characters had this sense of volume. And I was doing it all inside Figma Draw. No app switching, no exporting, just playing around in the same artboard, in the same effects panel. Okay, I'm going to try and give you a tutorial of how I create these 3D-looking shapes from 2D circles. My first trick is to use the radial gradient. I'll put a light color in the middle and then a darker one on the outside. This allows me to set the light source from the beginning. Then I'll use inner shadow. I actually use this one the most. The trick is to increase the opacity, so it's nice and dark. As it's the shadow, I'll add it at the bottom. Blur gives it this really nice soft focus feel. And then sometimes I'll use spread just to kind of like surround the shape. And I'm not shy with the inner shadow. I'll actually add another one, but make it white, increase the opacity, and then that's my light source. So I usually put it at the top. Sometimes I'll add a magenta or a green just to add this cool ambient light effect, as if there's other lights in the room. Come on. And the beautiful thing about Figma Draw is that I can copy these properties from this shape and paste them directly into another shape. It saves me so much time. And then I'll use the drop shadow, which is kind of like grounding the shape so it's not floating in midair. And then my favorite tool, the tool that I had to switch apps before, I can do it all in one panel now, is noise and texture. Noise add this cool grainy effect, and there's so many different variables that you can change there. And then I'll add texture just to give this nice soft tactile feel. Again, copy and paste these effects, and then these flat 2D shapes became these 3D spheres. It was the shift of how I was using these new tools. It forced me to look at my work differently, and it made 3D software feel accessible, something that I've wanted to do for years. So I tried it, and I picked it up pretty fast. Having the confidence at this stage in my career to start again and learn something from scratch, I think that was the unlock. It helped me go from these flat 2D characters into these tangible, textural 3D worlds that I'd always wanted to build. And now I do this stuff. I think after 12 years, I was really comfortable with where I was at. I had my way of doing things. I knew my software inside and out, and I was stuck doing it. But for me, getting completely stuck, discovering Figma Draw, learning how to use a new program was like a huge reminder that being halfway through a career doesn't mean that you're done learning. So there's one thing that I would like you to take away from my journey. It's this: don't be afraid of like picking up a new tool. Don't be afraid of being rubbish at something. Pick up a tool that scares you and just let yourself be a student again. Thank you.